delayed passage in the House when we were offering a $500 top-up to low-income Canadians.
Prime Minister expects to be judged on his promises rather than his results. The results are these. 8 years ago, housing was affordable, taking a modest 40% of average income to pay mortgages on an average house, something that's now up to 60%. Wow. The average cost of a house has nearly doubled. The cost of a mortgage payment has doubled. The cost of monthly rent has doubled. It's double trouble after 8 years of this Prime Minister. Unfortunately, he wants to keep doing what caused the problem in the first place. Will he instead stop funding gatekeeping that blocks construction and bring down the deficits that are driving up mortgage rates?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's interesting that the member opposite talks about what happened 8 years ago, because when we formed government, we realized that the previous federal government had done nothing on housing for close to 10 years. They had removed the federal government from any leadership role or partnerships around housing from the which is part of why we've faced real challenges over the past decade in responding to the growth in needs of housing across this country, which is why we also put into place in 2017 a national housing strategy that has led millions of Canadians to get into new residences and refurbished homes across the country, why we've continued to invest and step up.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, his main criticism seems to be that the previous Conservative government didn't hold enough meetings. Yeah. Or spend enough money. But what we actually delivered was affordable housing. The average house cost $450,000 at the time. The average rent back then was about 50% of what it is today. Mr. Speaker, now Canada has the fewest houses per capita in the G7. We have fewer houses per capita than when he took office 8 years ago, at a time when house construction actually dropped off. So will he get out of the way, let Canadians build, and let them put roof over head?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we all remember well that the previous Conservative government didn't spend enough money investing in Canadians, didn't support our veterans, didn't support builds in infrastructure, cut and slash programs, cut programs for seniors and for youth, raised the retirement age to 67 so that they could balance the budget in a fictional way for an election. Canadians saw through that and had them lose that election, Mr. Speaker. And we've stepped up to continue to invest in Canadians, continue to invest in housing, continue to invest in supports that have seen the economy grow, Mr. Speaker, have seen record job creation and record numbers of people live.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So he says that his real criticism is that our programs were not expensive enough for taxpayers, Mr. Speaker. The fact is, it's bad enough for him to fail. It's even worse for him to fail expensively, and that's what he's done. He does have an $80 billion housing program that has left us with the fewest houses per capita in the G7, even though we have the most land to build on. Fewer houses per capita than when he took office. We now have almost double the house price in Canada versus the US, where they have 10 times the people to house on a smaller landmass. So why doesn't he stop judging himself by how much he can spend instead of judging by how much he can get done?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives consistently get up and say what we really need to grow the economy and help Canadians is cuts. Cuts in the investments we're making for Canadians, cuts in the programs that are helping Canadians afford new homes, cuts in the programs that are incentivizing municipalities to increase density and accelerate house building. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that proposal of cuts and austerity is exactly why the Conservatives had such an underwhelming night on Monday night in those by-elections, Mr. Speaker. Canadians know they need a government that has their backs. That's what we're doing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, just because he makes housing more expensive to taxpayers doesn't excuse the fact that he's made it more expensive for home buyers. The reality, I'll give you an example. He tried to plagiarize my message on the need to get housing built by inventing a $4 billion accelerator program. Since that time, housing construction has decelerated. This year, according to his own housing agency, there will be fewer houses built than last year, 19% fewer. So why won't he actually take my policy, which is to link the number of dollars that cities get to the number of houses that get completed?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund was actually a corner piece of our last election campaign, but apparently the current leader of the official opposition was too busy sharpening his knives to pay attention to our platform in the last election. We've demonstrated a level of commitment and focus on delivering for Canadians while he continues to propose cuts.
I'm just going to... The noise level is starting to go up, and I understand this is like year end for students in a classroom, and everyone's excited. But I'm going to ask everyone to just take a deep breath, and maybe, the Prime Minister had 10 seconds left if he wants it. It's good? Okay, we'll go over to the Leader of the Opposition, and let's keep everything respectful. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Says there's no room for savings in his sumptuous government spending. Well, I found some. For example, he gave CMHC $26 million in bonuses for making housing less affordable. He paid $181,000 for the Governor General's travel, $116 million for McKinsey, a company that supports him but actually helped cause the opioid crisis, $54 million for the ArriveCan app, $6,000 for one night in a hotel for the Prime Minister. Doesn't he think we could pass on that spending and put the money back in Canadians' pockets?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Conservative leader continues to put forward is a program of cutting programs for Canadians, whether it's billions of dollars for childcare at $10 a day right across the country that he continues to campaign against, whether it's investments in a climate action incentive that both puts a price on pollution and puts more money back in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians that he would cancel. That's money in the pockets of families in his riding that he would cancel. Whether it's moving forward on things like a grocery rebate or a doubling of the GST tax credit that has helped out 11 million Canadians and will continue to support seniors and young people.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So here's a real plan to make housing affordable. Balance the budget to bring down inflation and interest rates on Canadians' mortgages. Require that cities increase the number of permitted homes by 15% in order to get more infrastructure money, and pay the money out once the houses are completed and the keys are indoors. Require every federally funded transit station have high-density housing all around it, and sell off 6,000 underutilized federal buildings to convert them into affordable housing and use the proceeds to reduce the deficit. How's that for a plan?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, many of those elements in his supposed plan are things that we are already very much working on. But the one place we disagree is his proposal to cut programs, to cut supports to low-income Canadians, to cut supports with things like a housing benefit that he not only voted against, but he delayed passage in the House when we were offering a $500 top-up to low-income Canadians. He has consistently stood against the kinds of supports and investments in Canadians, offering instead cuts and austerity at a time where Canadians need continued support. And on fiscal responsibility, Mr. Speaker, we're still at the top of the class in the G7.